Hey guys, we got something to talk about, so I'm on. I'm just checking. Uh, so, let's go ahead and change hats here. Look at this. I can go both ways. Contrary to popular belief, I root for the Utes when they're not playing BYU. Okay, always. And I have rooted for the Utes on 2 occasions when they played BYU. So please do not crucify me, BYU fans. I beg your forgiveness. But when Utah has something to lose and BYU doesn't, like a chance at the BCS National Championship or get into a BCS game, I've rooted for Utah. So that's why I've got my Utah hat on. I've got a Utah shirt upstairs. I even got Utah pajamas once in a while I wear, even in public. So, Norm Chow. Don't even know if it's official yet. New offensive coordinator at Utah. That's the buzz. And by this taping, by the time of the, it hasn't been made official by the time, at this time that I'm taping. Okay. Anyway, one thing I caution you guys all the time. Everybody I talk to, don't always listen and believe what you hear when you're listening to radio personalities. I don't care if they played the game or not, or the sports writers, or what you're seeing, what they say on TV. I just heard, and this is quote, Norm Chow was the offensive coordinator from 1973 to 1999 under Lavelle Edwards. Totally erroneous information. Okay? I don't know when they named Norm Chow the co-offensive coordinator, exact day or exact year, but he wasn't the offensive coordinator when I was there, nor several years after I left, because I actually helped a little bit as a graduate assistant for the 2 years that I played in LA in the USFL. Okay, he was my coach, tight end coach, when I was at BYU. So, and not until 1981 did he start sharing, or 1982 did he start sharing responsibilities of calling the plays and designing the pass offense. And that was with Mike Holmgren. That's so. Just again, these guys got to get their facts straight before they start throwing stuff out. Anyway, this is something I'll have to tell you that was coming as soon as Utah was admitted into the Pac-10, or now it's the Pac-12, which is going to be hard for me to say. Okay, as soon as that happened, I am pretty sure I would probably bet part of my life on it that Kyle Whittingham and Chris Hill got together and said, we need to start looking for somebody to help once we get into Pac-10. Okay? And it just so happens that Norm is available because he's not having a real good run of it down at UCLA for whatever reason. But let me tell you something. Norm knows the Pac-10. Norm was at USC when he became and was named Offensive Coordinator of the Year. Okay, that's huge success. That is a huge honor, guys. He was a big money coach. He developed Carson Palmer. He had Steve Sarkisian working under him at USC. Okay? And we all know Steve Sarkisian is now head coach at Washington. He developed Phillip Rivers, who's at San Diego. He's worked in the NFL with Vince Young. And so he's got some credibility behind him. He hasn't had a lot of success since he left USC. Tennessee, that's a whole nother story. I happen to be pretty good friends with Chuck Cecil, who is the defensive coordinator currently. I don't know if he still is. There was talk that they were making changes down there. At Tennessee, the Titans. And he happened to be, the reason I know Chuck fairly well is he was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in my class. And we stood together, or next to each other, on the float during the parade down at the Fiesta Bowl 2 years ago, or a year ago. Anyway, and we talked about Norm and what happened, why Norm had a tough time in the NFL. Doesn't matter. NFL, college is two different things. I think what happened is Norm thought he could take the college philosophy and make it work in the NFL, and for whatever reason, you can't. I think you can if you get enough of the people around you that believe in your concept. But when you go into the NFL and you're coaching with a bunch of guys that have been around for a while, their egos get in the way. They know everything. Whatever happened, he got out of the NFL, went to UCLA, and he hasn't had a lot of success down there. I've watched a little bit of it. You know, they came up to Provo and put a big goose egg up against the Cougars a couple years ago. And they're not doing a whole lot in UCLA as far as putting up numbers. And I don't know if it's Norm's fault or if it's Rick Neuheisel's fault. You know, Rick Neuheisel's an ex-quarterback. I don't know if, you know, what he's been allowed to do down there as an offensive coordinator. Sometimes you get in a situation where you're the offensive coordinator. That means all you do is kind of break down film and put down, you know, come up with a semi-game plan for the head coach who calls the plays to kind of work off of, okay? You get that offensive coordinator money and label, but as you see, you know, Mike Holmgren called his own plays, Andy Reid in the NFL called his own plays. Sometimes, I don't know. But, let me tell you something, guys. It's a good move for Utah. If Kyle's doing this to save or help mold A-Rod, as we'll call him, because I think it's Aaron Roderick. I don't follow names a lot either. A-Rod, I have heard him well. If he's doing this to help A-Rod and his career down the road, kudos to Coach Whittingham. Because throwing a young guy like him into the Pac-10 as an offensive coordinator, as a young gun like that, could have been very damaging to Aaron Roderick's career as an offensive coordinator. We saw that both Utah and BYU struggled offensively when the chips were down. Utah or BYU more the whole season until it kind of became called by committee, but it's still obvious that Robert was just did not have, how do I state this really kindly, the kahunas to make the big tough call. Well, I saw the same thing with Aaron Roderick. Very conservative, scared, starting with the TCU game and all the way out through the end. Okay, lucky they didn't lose against BYU. Dang lucky. So a change was in the offing, specifically easy to make when you get moved into the Pac-10, and Norm Chow and his credentials, being able to develop quarterbacks. Now, one thing I want to point out, and it kind of comes back to my argument, let's go back to the old days. When Norm was at USC, we all know they got great history of great offensive lines and the eye back. And we run the student body right, student body left. Several Heisman Trophy winners out of the backfield. Okay, they're a huge, huge legacy there already built in. Norm went down there, and out of curiosity, I got on his website when he was there, this is years ago, to see what he was doing. Because oddly enough, he had everything posted on his website. And I went, clicked on offensive passing scheme, and guess what he had? The BYU playbook. I kid you not. Okay? He had changed a couple of the routes and just their drawing, but it was the same thing. And it even had the same numbering system, but he added tags to a few. But the reason I bring this up is Utah is kind of set up the same way USC. Great offensive lines, great offensive linemen, you see them all over in the NFL. Good, solid running backs that go into the NFL and make a noise in the NFL. And he's got a good, solid quarterback. What better to, do what everybody wants to do, balance the run and the pass. But guess what? If he's allowed to come in and maybe remove this spread option that they've been running, only because Jordan Wynn is not a run threat. And when you're not a run threat, that spread option just doesn't work. And you could see TCU just shut it down, and even BYU shut it down. Notre Dame shut it down. Okay, it's a perfect spot to come in and just say, hey, let's do this. Let's go back to the tight end, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs. Let's get in the eye. Let's get in the split backs, and let's have at it. So it's a good move because Norm's been around, and he has the Pac-10 experience. And I can't wait to see him and talk to him. So that's my take on it. Let's just see what happens. Okay? Finally, Couple questions. Take off this hat, put back on my BYU. The Tuck Man. We will refer to him as the Tuck Man. Wants to know how I feel about replacing a couple key guys in the secondary. Brian Logan, I think is his name, and Andrew Rich. I have no problem, no nervousness or worries, because we've never been really solid as a defensive backfield at BYU. I mean, from one side, one corner to the other. Okay, we don't always have a lot of speed. We never have a shutdown corner. Literally, I don't think our best corners that have been down there have never been, quote unquote, the shutdown corner. So we always have great big safeties that come through that program every year. That's a constant too, if you want to know about BYU. Big offensive lineman, big defensive lineman, and a safety that's big and can make hits and make plays. We had Kyle Morrell. You've seen Aaron Francisco. He's still in the NFL. Andrew Rich. Do I think he's in the same league? Not quite sure. We'll see. He's in the East-West Shrine game coming up. But I have no problem. Had a lot of guys played in as linebackers. The linebacking core is where you always have to be concerned. How much speed do we have as linebackers? And we got a lot of guys coming back that played. So I don't have any problem. Plus, Broncos running the show. As long as Broncos running the show, he'll find a way. If he has to go to the zone, complete zone, bend but don't break, he'll get it done. All right. And then finally, got to check this guy out. He's called The Editor. He responded to one of my videos. Says he loves it, but he wanted to point out, how do I explain, because I don't like the shotgun, how do I explain the success that Max Hall has had? Or had. I didn't say it wouldn't work, guys. I said I don't like it. And it can be exposed very easily. If you saw the national championship game, Auburn shut down a very powerful, high potency offensive attack that runs the spread option because the defensive coordinator out-coached Oregon's offensive coordinator. Okay, there is no way to overcome your bad day as a coordinator. If you've got let's say we stay in the shotgun, let's at least agree on this. If you want to take care of the zone blitz, whether it's in the NFL or the college game, you need to have backs in the backfield who can be pass threats. And that's what we always had at BYU. So it's a good point. Max Hall, I don't think he said he put up better numbers. In fact, I got it right here. Put up bigger numbers and had great 11-win seasons. Never got to the BCS. Bigger numbers than who? He won the most games because he played the most games, but he's not even close to being in the league of Mark Wilson, Giff Nielsen, Jim McMahon, Steve Young, Ty Detmer. Max Hall will have a decent career in the NFL as a backup probably, but I would not even consider him even close to that class. So that's my opinion, guys. All right. So the only thing I can say is, I'm going to get a little controversial. You got to check out The Editor. I believe that's the name of his blog. He writes a couple other things, has some good stuff. He's very passionate about BYU football. He's from the East Coast. I think Florida is. Says he's been writing a long time. Give you a word of advice, though, to the editor. When you're listing your qualifications, I'd much rather, if you're just a real big fan and great writer, keep it to that. Don't put as a list of your qualifications that you played high school football for Bingham. So, that kind of ruined it for me, because it seems like you're adding that to, you write some good stuff. So that's as controversial as I can get, but, don't tell me you're an expert on the game because you played at Bingham High and you were a safety, okay? So, and just for us guys to play, and that's it. Everybody's been saying you've been too nice, being Bronco Mendenhall in your blog. So I had to bring a little controversy. Don't take it personal, Mr. Editor. I read your stuff. Went through it the other night when you sent me your response, and I think the rest of you guys ought to check it out. It's always good to get more, opinions, to develop your own. Just like they say, everybody's got an opinion, just like they got something else. So I don't care if you don't like what I have to say. We don't always have to agree on philosophy. When I'm right, I'm right. And I'm done ranting, and I'll rest my case. Thanks for coming by.